Hey guys, thanks for tuning in and thank you for joining us today in Beyond the Graphs podcast. We talk about all things hair, but also all things hair transplant. We have our actual patient, Rob.
Hello.
So thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today, Rob.
Thanks for inviting me.
Now it's great to have you, and great to have an actual patient. It's actually something that we have been working so much on for our materials. A lot of patients think that it's just before and after, or it's just, but actually it's surprisingly difficult to use just patients, real patients results. So I don't know if you have noticed that in your research with our work. We try if we have some stock photo, that's by mistake, but we try to use as much as our original material, original patients as much as possible.
Yeah, I think it's important to have that to be able to see, because, like you said, if you see it before and after online, a lot of places you can't be sure what's genuine and know the process properly, but from the start to the finish, you want to see more. And I think there needs to be more of that shared, so that people can understand what the process is and what it will look like.
And is that the reason behind that you have kindly so agreed to do it actually on your own accord and in your own time to do this lovely channel, Follicle Chronicle?
Yeah. I set that up obviously because it was something that I wanted to have as a record for myself. But I think importantly, that I wanted other people to see the process as well, because I think it was very hard for me to find a genuine journey that showed the start to the finish and the true results and what happened before and after. So I think it was important for people to be able to see that. Normal people, for a start, not just celebrities who've endorsed in hair transplant.
Sometimes they endorse it out of kindness, like yourself.
Yeah.
Some of them heard is not. It's a little bit not as simple as you thought.
Yeah.
It's going to be. There might be some something more driven reasons financially or etc. Right?
But I think, yeah, exactly. But I think if you're not a celebrity, then it's just you're going to take notes of those more. I think, because you know the reason why people are doing it. It's not, like you said, for celebrity endorsement. They haven't got all the followers and everything like that. So,
cool.
yeah.
No, we appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot, and especially the detail that you go in. You know how the journey has been, and in case if any one of you haven't seen Follicle Chronicle, it's a lovely lovely account of the entire journey from start to finish of the 12 months journey of his own hair transplant experience, his own journey on hair transplant. And Rob is very kindly that did his own call, documenting his what has happened. So throughout the whole journey in there, let me ask you some questions. Yeah. Now we look back at it and think, oh, you got more hair in there, so it's hopefully it's great. But back in the starting phase when you first researching for hair transplant, what's going through your mind back then?
I think it was just being able to genuinely find someone I could trust to make sure I was going to get what I wanted. I think it was just so many different options out there that it's a little bit scary to commit to a transplant doctor to start with. But I think, it was years and years that I was thinking about doing it, but I didn't do it until obviously a couple of years ago. I didn't actually sort of really go for it. I was just thinking, I just want to now. I'm just fed up now of what my hair looks like, and I want to have what I wanted. So I just thought I'm going to do some more research now, find some more people, and then obviously I found your page and read some reviews. And I thought, well, I might as well just come and speak to you, because I think it feels scary to start with, the idea of actually sort of going to do it, and but the idea is the fact that I could come and see you and actually talk to you properly in person and be at a clinic where I'm going to have it done was the main point. It was really important to me.
So during your research, you guessing you've been to one or two other places or many other places?
I'd been to 2 places. So I did go for a PRP.
Okay.
Palette-rich plasma. So I went for one of those, and the company said, we'll be able to do you a consultation while I was having it done. And it turned out to be a really rushed consultation where they sort of looked at my scalp and they said, yeah, we can do you a good hairline. And that was it. That's what I had. But I almost still went to commit to that. But there was problems with communication with WhatsApp groups on who had sort of agreed to do what at what prices. So I left that one.
Wait. What WhatsApp group is that?
WhatsApp group. So obviously there are plenty of places where you might travel to another country to have it done. Of course, there's going to be some good places that you do it, but the main communication will always be on a WhatsApp.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
On a WhatsApp.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. So I had contact with another clinic who had sort of, again, there was too many people at the company giving different sort of quotes and prices.
I see.
So at that point I said, I will leave that one. And then I did another one, which was local to me in Bristol. And they actually did have a look at my hairline with a camera.
Cool.
But again, it went to a doctor. So they were sort of like a salesperson,
Like a
middleman. They were the consultants as a general.
Okay.
And then they would send pictures to the doctor, who would then give the quote back.
Oh, so when you actually went there, you went to see
A salesperson.
Yeah, okay.
But not
Okay,
not
and then after you've seen that person, then they will send it to forward to the doctor.
They did it while I was there, and they were fine. They were nice, and they showed me their hair transplant, because they had one done themselves. But you were the only person that drew the hairline on. They didn't draw one on at the other place, so I didn't even have an idea of what it might look like.
Really?
Yeah. So
that's kind of a important area
Yeah.
I mean, the design. Now you've gone through the process. I mean, the design is basically a big part, right?
Yeah. So obviously when I'd gone to do the PRP and had to go with that one. I'd done the second one where I'd spoken to them, really nice, but again, when I came to you, and then I realized after that this was the place that I wanted to go, just because I knew who was going to be doing my hair and I knew the situation. I've never understood the people that come back from places like Turkey that have the bands around the head with the big, like, it looks like they got a big swollen brain, big head after they had their hair transplant. Because I thought, I mean, I didn't have any swelling, hardly any swelling.
We didn't work anything on your brain though. No,
really big heads with bands,
I believe that you were describing is there is a little big forehead, like a tennis Wimbledon sweatband, and feels like on top is a bit. Number one is fully shaven and is a bit swollen in there. That is one of the technique that to control the swelling in the face in a way, but I'm not sure if that actually works well, because the swelling have to go through your face before it redistributed. So if you put that sweatband on for the first couple of days, then it just basically you can see the swelling is right on top. So I don't know.
I wonder if maybe travel can sometimes with plane and heat and pressures can have anything to do with increasing sort of swelling.
Don't know.
So that's why I was happy to come to you.
Did you have much swelling?
No.
Because there were a couple
Almost
of
nothing.
ways of looking at managing the swelling. So you remember we had tablets,
Yeah.
anti-inflammatory
Yeah.
tablets. We have, when we do the injections in the front, we also not just the front but also in the back.
Yeah.
We also mix in with the anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
So we mix in. What do we mix in? We actually mix in things that for anti-inflammation. So have you ever heard of people who had, like I told you, joint injections as inflammatory?
Yeah.
So we use some of these anti-inflammatory equivalent to mix it in our solutions to do the injections. So what it means is when we work on it, as we work and do the injections, it reduces the inflammation while we are working, and of course afterwards there's all these crazy antibiotic anti-inflammatories and all the aftercare that also helps to reduce the inflammation and hopefully the swelling there. But I'm glad to know that it's working and it has reduced the degree of swelling in there.
I didn't really notice anything, to be honest. A tiny little bit in patches, but it wasn't anything to. It wasn't like any of the ones you've seen on some videos of people when they've had their transplants. It's a bit crazy.
I mean, even though when I first before I do all these anti-inflammatory things, I in my early days of hair transplant, I was going back maybe 15 years or so ago when I first did it. The swelling isn't that major. Not say major, say common. But I don't know why. But I guess some places they don't really too concerned about the swelling. But to us, it's very important because it's part of the healing journey. I mean, imagine everyone gets swollen up, and how are they going to go back to work?
I think maybe it could also be part of your techniques where you inject the solutions to raise it. So I think that could probably give less damage.
Yeah, a little bit to a smaller degree. What you're saying is we do some injections to raise the skin up to create a little bit of more space. We call it tumescence, and we create more space. When you work on it, then when the injections goes down, then the space disappear. So yeah, that's something we do.
I think that could be less traumatic for the thing.
Yeah.
Also, I think obviously one of the other reasons. So the reason I chose you was the specific mapping of the follicles. So obviously, I knew exactly how many I'd be getting.
Surface area, treatment area, mapping and measurements.
Yeah. So that reason is that you give a very specific amount. And you tell us why, and you show us the reasons, but also the size of the punch as well. And that could be a big difference to trauma.
Huge,
I think.
Hugely, right? I mean, the other day we did a video, I don't know if you've seen, and we got a free sample from one of the supplier.
Okay.
You have to use this button. No. Wrong sound. This one. From supplier. Beep out. So we actually did a video on where this lovely supplier who gave us a punch to try out.
Okay.
And I thought, wow, that's nice, and I'll pick that size. That was just quite small.
Yeah.
Anyway, so before we actually use it, we look at it, and I thought there's something not quite right. Okay. And then I measured it up. And then I realized, actually, the size is not right. And although they say the size is
whichever millimeters.
Yeah. And but in reality, they are like 3-4 size up. So
really?
And I was like shocked. I'm not using it on my patients. And but it's easy to get into the thinking of. We're using a small punch, but then depending who you speak to, I mean, someone who is who use different brand or different manufacturer can even the same equivalent size, let's pick a number, 0.85 mm punch, can actually be vary between. It can be actually 0.85 mm punch, or it can be 0.95, or even 1.000 size. So depending on the manufacturer and depending on how individual. I mean, I guess you imagine if you had. You went to that lovely sales person. He could have said, "Oh, it's much smaller."
Yeah.
0. I don't know, 0.6 or something. I don't think there's such actual size I've ever come across by measurement, 0.6. But they could have just said that, and they could get away. But I think the size does matter. The smaller it is, did you know the smaller it is, the more time consuming to actually do?
Well, I assumed that. I mean, you use a small one, and I was there for about 12 hours, right?
Really?
So it was sort of. It was 7:30 in the morning till It was about 7:45 in the morning till about 7:30 at night when we actually completely finished.
It sounds about right?
Yeah.
I think you stayed. Did you stay over the?
Yes, the Holiday Inn one over there.
I'll have to be
that chain of hotel. Yeah, I did, and because then again, that also makes me think. You see some places where people have had a lot of hair transplanted, and you think, how have they? I can't believe they would have been in there for 12 hours as well. When they've
not many places
because they're quite fast in and out. So maybe they use a lot bigger punches.
So the punches, honest, it's not the right word, but the correct punch or actual punch size can vary with manufacturer, and the quoted, not to say the individual quote, but the what they actually manufacture and what they actually put in the on the pack can be different. So it can be a 0.9 mm, but what they say is on the pack is 0.7 mm. So that can be a bit of a difference. And actually, you just lead to the other point is how many hairs or how many grafts in there. I actually come across some website who now only recently, lately, would say the graph, the quote, what did they say? They say the quotation is only a graph estimate.
Yeah.
So the treatment itself is only a graph estimate.
This is the other thing actually that reminded me. Obviously, you get your quote from the salesperson who's gone to the doctors, and they've given you this quote. And then I think to myself, you'll get there on the day. And so obviously, when I came to you to have my real sort of consult, obviously you could see that my hair was a bit finer, and that I'd need a few more grafts to make it denser looking. You think when you get to those places on the day, are they just gonna carry on and do what they quoted you, or are they gonna say, actually, you need to have double the grafts, so you're gonna have to pay double the price, and you're gonna be put in that position on that day, surely. So that's quite. I think everything that if you can go to see someone, see their environment, see how they're doing it, that's just like the biggest comfort, I think. And that's obviously the selling. That is the selling point.
We want to do it with transparency and honesty, so it is what it is.
And I think that's just what a lot of younger people need to know and see as well, because obviously they get drawn in with these great deals you see online, on Instagram, on Facebook, and they think, oh, that'll be fine. That'll do.
I mean, if you look on our emails, a lot of patients sometimes first line they say, how much is 2,500 grafts?
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, is 2,500 grafts really what they need?
Yeah.
Is 2,500 is what they think they need, or someone told them that is needed, or so sometimes I insist, like, maybe best to send in the photos for a proper pre-assessment, and I'll look at the areas, see if that's kind of in line. Sometimes it anger them a little. It's like, why you need to send in photos?
The thing I've read as well, obviously there are some places which will sort of promote unlimited grafts. And
what is?
I don't know what whatever you need, whatever they think you need, and then I've read where some people have over harvested and not used them.
I heard that too.
that is scary.
It is
because
it's scary.
the back of your head would look so bad,
And the most
and then you
important
can't
thing,
use it again.
the most important thing is that the donor hair is limited resource.
Yeah,
There's only
exactly.
so much that you could harvest from there.
This is going to sound really crazy, but originally, a long time ago, I thought
Yeah.
that you could just like cut the hair out the back and use it on the front. I thought that's just what they did, and then
That would be
you
nice,
just
right?
reuse it again. It would just regrow, and you could use it again. So I think it's really important because still a lot of people don't know that the hair comes from the back.
Yeah.
Obviously, you
take
can't
the
use it
root.
again. And then you put it in the front. So a lot of people still don't know about that. So I think it's important for people to know that properly. And obviously, as important as it is going in the front, it is coming out the back. So obviously, you've got to choose your very specific follicles, 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s,
Yeah.
and get them from the right places. Balance it out so that you would never know that they've been taken out. Because I do know some people that I've seen where it's quite obvious that they've got patches in the back of their heads where they've had grafts taken. So I think
that's one thing about planning, because if you have a clear plan to extract the hair follicles, let's say, I don't know, 2,800 grafts, then you can plan it carefully. You know, we're going to take half from half of the donor, and then within that half of the donor, we segment it into smaller squares, and we can then pre-work. You know, we almost like once we drawn. Remember the lovely square that we did in the donor? You probably won't remember. Like,
no, I do remember. I've got a picture of it on my Instagram. Obviously,
out of all the things, you keep that one. So basically, those little square and grids, that's a pre-drawn out area. So I know each area we need to target certain amount of grafts, so that we can complete the extraction as planned, so it's not over harvesting from one area and then under harvesting. So the idea is to spread it. I mean, there will be some areas is a little bit up and a little bit down, maybe a few grafts up on this area, maybe a few grafts down. But then the idea is to spread the extraction as closely as possible, so that the spread of the FUE signs is a little bit less noticeable. And that's not something interestingly, that's not something that was taught when I first do FUE. When I first did FUE, you'll be surprised. And one of my mentors, please don't be angry, one of my mentor, he would just go as the flow. So he would start off the injection in the middle, would start working on it, and if that area wasn't a good area, he would just go to another area and then start doing it. And if that's a good area, we would take more from there. And then there wasn't a plan, so to speak. So it's
do you think people still operate like that?
I think there's some people would still do that, because that's how they always do it. And but I think now the newer generations more care about these sort of thing and look at it a little bit more detail. But no, I think so for a lot of people would think, halfway point we get about half, then we are on target. But then this the subsection also is important too. But then each school of thought, each clinic or each house or each technique, or it's a bit different. You know, some house focus on get as much as we can in the middle center there, because that's where the stronger hair follicle is, and then the rest will take some. And I take a slightly more methodical approach to spread it evenly and each section, etc. But it's not a must. It's not something that was taught in a book. I kind of sort of figure it out, just I guess by chance, by experience, and thought a better spread. It just give the donor a better, more even chance to look more even. And then, and in fact, one of the other common things that they used to do is they like to start taking hair follicles in the center, but lower down in the center there, and. And that was what I was taught to do when I first started doing hair transplant. That was a long time ago, 15 years ago. And because the hair in the center and the lower actually is a little bit easier to extract, to harvest.
Yeah.
So of course you go for the easy one. It's so time consuming already. You need to take the grafts, and then and you're trying to take the more longer, deeper, higher. We used to just go in the lower section first, and hence you see some. FUE extraction is quite lower down. But then as you go along, then you realize actually, if the lower it is, although it's easy on the day, when you do a little fade or not even a high fade, it's just a normal fade, then it starts to show up.
Yeah.
Then we start thinking, okay, well, maybe we need to go a little bit higher. So we skip the lower bit, very lower bit there. So it doesn't show so much.
I thought people had to have a shape, like a lower, like fade, in order to not see the transplant. I thought the shorter hair was the way that you sort of, people had to hide it if they had sort of like...
You mean fade higher or fade lower in the lower bit?
Well, regardless, I thought you had to just have your hair... People have said they had to have their hair shorter
to make it less noticeable.
To make it less noticeable,
I mean, yeah, it's possible. I mean, if the reduction of that area is so noticeably when the other hair is dark, when let's say this bit is dark and then here it starts to sparse and shave down a little bit, maybe less noticeable.
Well, thankfully, I don't need to do that because mine you can't see. Again, you can watch a video, you can't see.
Well, the idea of that is to reduce the signs and to give our patients, yourself and many other patients, just a little bit more freedom to wear their hair shorts. What do you wish to have known before the transplant? I mean, obviously you have gone through your journey on the researching transplant and then the whole journey of results. Is there anything that sort of surprised you or you thought you should have known beforehand?
Well, I think you were really good at telling me everything that was going to happen. So I think once you've spoken to me, I think I knew everything, but you know, if I talk to people through my Instagram when they ask me, I will tell them all the reasons why I chose you over someone else, which was things like the mapping, the punch size, the just coming to see it, and I don't think there's anything that I was sort of surprised with on the day, to be honest. Cool. I think that I can't really think of anything that sort of surprised me.
Even in the healing journey, you know, with all the crazy haircut afterwards, with the bandage and then the redness and then the shedding.
Yeah, so I think obviously I was hoping that I wasn't going to shed.
Oh yes, we have that conversation
because you said you sort of like as you're younger you can almost get away with it. Sort of, I can't remember what age you said. Sort of like you can get away with maybe not shedding. So I was sort of hoping to avoid the shedding. It didn't happen. It did sort of right on cue at the sort of time.
2 weeks to about 3 months, right?
Yeah. Was it? Maybe it was 3 weeks. I'm not sure. Again, you can see that on my story, on my posts. But it starts disappearing, and you do feel a little bit sort of disheartened. Like you feel like that's a lot of work that you've gone through, and then it's falling out, and you do wonder:
is it working?
Is it actually going to come back? Because when I look back again, you see how much has gone. It's almost not there, and you are worried that it's not going to come back. But
it's actually normal to feel. It is normal to feel concerned because it's literally just falling in front of your eyes every day. A few hairs here, a few grafts here and there.
Yeah.
And how did that feel, and how did you kind of go on through that phase?
I was just trusted it, really. I mean, the fact that I could obviously speak to you, I think I did send emails to you a couple of times and show you there was something actually, but I think that I had sent you and I can't remember, but it was about the process of sort of coming back again. I think I think it was a little bit of folliculitis maybe.
Oh yeah, a few spots here and there.
For the spots here and there, and again that's fine.
Eventually
settled down.
Used
some of the baby sort of like not baby shampoo, but the
antiseptic shampoo.
Yeah, antiseptic shampoo on it, and that was fine. I think I was worried more about the fact that I'd had it done and got through it, and then I wanted to just make sure that I didn't do anything to destroy it. So I was obviously the first night I did actually I think it was probably sort of 3 or 4 nights I slept in a chair upright.
Yeah, 3 or 4 nights, yeah.
Might have been a bit longer, I'm not sure. Yeah. But I was just worried that I didn't want to rub my head because I know that I sort of can sort of face plant the pillow and stuff and rub it all over. So I was just really concerned about that. So that was a concern. Again, I had a neck pillow and I just tried to be as much, as still as possible, and then just do the sprays, every half an hour. I think it was the first couple of days.
3 days. First night was a little bit more intense, every 15 minutes or so,
where possible. Yeah. When I was if I woke up or something, I'd spray some more. But I think obviously I'd like to have a little bit more on temples and the top now. That I think initially when I spoke to you and I said, I don't really care where it is as long as I've got a strong hairline. Mm-hmm. Now that I've got a strong hairline, I want some more.
It's okay.
You think that I was convinced that that was gonna be enough, but I would still like to have more done. So obviously that's another task, just to do some tweaks.
Yeah, I mean it's totally. I mean, we're humans, and we're entitled to change our opinions as we change.
Yeah,
right?
I think that when you see what you've got and how it's worked, and you're happy with it, and that is what you could have, you want some more. And I think again, because I know the process, because I came here and I've had it done, I'd have no problem just going again with it.
Wow.
I just need some it would just probably need to relook at the aftercare again.
Yeah. Because that's quite a. Did we trim a little bit in the front? A little
bit on the front,
and then we leave the hair behind it a little bit longer, right?
Yeah.
Did that help going back to work, or is it actually worse?
Well, I was working at home, so it didn't really matter. But somebody did say that they really liked my haircut, and I said this isn't a style choice, because it was obviously really short on the back and sides.
In case they need a haircut, that haircut, you can find me here.
It was really short back and sides, and then left on the top. Yeah. So obviously it was fine. Like I said, you can have it down, you can hide it. So it just looks like you got some really dramatic sort of, I don't know, just
fashionable haircut.
A very questionable, fashionable haircut.
Questionable fashion. Okay.
But all good, yeah. So obviously it grows back. It starts growing back quite quickly.
But once you pass the first couple of weeks, then the longer hair actually helps you, because this comes back, and then this sort of still got length to play with, right?
Yeah. So it was hidden, so you wouldn't know that I'd had it done. But at the same time, I didn't really mind if anyone knew. Obviously, that's what I'm doing. I'm telling everyone that I'm having it done because I think it's important, because there's still a stigma.
What sort of comments have you come across? You tell, being so open and talk about your hair transplant.
Anyone I speak to just says, that it's good for you, But cool. Because, and then actually people will say, oh, I want one. I wanted one, and things like that. Do you know what I mean? So I think that people, and I've said about having another one, and they say, if you've got the money to do it and that's what makes you happy, do it, because it's for you, it's for you, to make you feel good about yourself again. So
while on this topic in here, don't know if you're in your own time, you have come across some online opinion where they would be against our hairline transplant is you shouldn't be doing it, and the moment you lose more hair, etc., then there
is so much online, I think, about it's really so first of all, the thing that really annoys me is that I know people have had hair transplants, and then there will be companies that do supplements and they've basically said that these supplements are helping them grow their hair, but do not specify that they've had a hair transplant. So that annoys me a little bit, because that they've had it done, but they're just sort of endorsing the supplements So they're almost making you believe that the supplements on their own
Is
are going to grow
good-
your hair back.
Is good as transplant.
Well, yeah, and there are some places that say before having transplants, you should do this and you should do that. Avoid these costly hair transplants. Have this and have that. But again, I'm not convinced that these people that they're showcasing haven't had a hair transplant first. I just don't think it's possible, because obviously we've obviously talked about supplements, and I was taking some minoxidil and finasteride, and I have had a couple of little side effects with them. But I have been taking some natural vitamins, and I'm going to go back and try some minoxidil again. But I think you do see some effects, but I don't think that I think these companies seem to be peddling supplements, because if you had a hair transplant, you'll get the results you want, and then you'll have you can find ways to top it up, I think, to keep it sort of running, But I think people are trying to peddle these supplements, and you think, well, if a hair transplant is done, some people won't bother with supplements, for instance. So I think there are a lot of companies that are trying to sell these supplements to try and sell them. So they're putting people off hair transplants to try and get them to buy all their supplements. It's what I think.
Wow.
That's what I think. Yeah. So there is, like I said, there's so much that you can see online which can really confuse you, I think. So I think you've got to just do some careful research, spend some time doing it, and just go for it, really, with a transplant, I think.
Because sometimes hair transplant will come sort of under fire on, I shouldn't be doing a hair transplant. There's so much debate on, too young to have a hair transplant, too early to have a hair transplant. But actually, I mean, you as a patient who experience the journey and hopefully the benefit from that.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone who is starting off researching for hair transplant, or they are younger looking at hair transplant, they come across all somewhat sort of a negative how should I put this?
Adverts and views
or views on hair transplant. What would you say to them?
So I have spoken to some younger people already that I know through friends, and I've really been transparent with them, like you would be to me, and tell them, obviously, like, it's not cheap if you have one in certain places, and there are cheaper options, but you just have to be really transparent in terms of, this is what the techniques are, this is who your doctor is, this is who you will get on the day, this is the techniques. So if you can find that and you're happy in other places, if you've done all the research, then go to whichever one you want to. But I think it's just worth spending the money and feeling really comfortable and having what you're going to get. Because, like I said, if you go anywhere else and you haven't done your research, you could get anything. And I think that's, can be gutting, really, to spend that money. It's going to be on your head, hopefully, the rest of your life.
Well, that's we see that as a very important, because it's a big step that people do before they sign up for a transplant with myself or with another person. And that's we see that as a we appreciate that. We see that as a big major step, and that's why we want to give it 100% when we're doing it. I feel that is no attention is over attention when it comes to this sort of treatment, because it's so important, and we have that one chance of doing it.
Yeah.
You guys have been thinking long and hard for however many months or how many years, and when it comes to doing it, and that's why it's we like to go over the finer details and things.
That was actually one of the other things I was going to say, actually. It reminds me that people actually ask me quite a lot is, so what happens if you start losing, like, the rest of your hair? And I said, well, that is obviously the main issue, really, that I think at my age, once I've got to my age, that hopefully it should have slowed down quite a lot. So I think you get to that point where you think, actually, this should be manageable. But I say to them, obviously that's what there are things like minoxidil for.
To address future hair
to
loss.
try and keep that from going. But yeah, that is a question I get asked a lot: is what happens if you
lose more hair?
And then I say, well, yeah, you could have that could be a risk of having your hair transplant at the front and then it just disappearing. So you've got the patch on the front, and they think that's hilarious. but
that is the truth.
But that's the truth. Yeah,
That is the limitation on transplant.
And I think that was something again that probably did stop me. That it was one of my concerns initially before having the transplant, is if I was just going to lose more.
And did that happen?
What, have I lost more? Not that I'm aware of, but obviously I'm doing what I can, just trying to have like some decent shampoo, some decent food and diets and vitamins and things like that to try and keep. I think previously in my life I've had some sort of like anxiety issues and things like that. So I do think that some of that I believe that some of that contributed to the state of my hairline at the point before I had the transplant. So I would say that, being in a better place, I would hope sort of like, in a mental state, that hopefully that would slow down some of the hair loss. I think you just got to be sort of calm and relaxed in life. You've got to try and be chilled out, and then you might keep it.
Absolutely. I mean, the transplant process for some is actually quite stressful.
Yeah.
Seeing the hair transplant and then seeing the hair actually shed off, and then take months for some, not all of them, coming back. And when it comes back, it's a few sort of sparse hair to start with. I mean, it's like what you saying, the trust of the process. Some might have trust for a couple of weeks, and then you started questioning. And I actually have patients who during the process find that itself is so stressful. Not the transplant itself, the recovery process, and then it's so long. People, I think, underestimate the duration. They thought, I just have a transplant. It's going to be.
I knew obviously that it was a long time. I mean, I'd done a lot of research. I knew it was a long time. It wouldn't just appear overnight, because I think some people genuinely think that it will take a couple of weeks and they'll have their hair. Because I do have a friend who had spoken to one of their friends and said, I want to get my hair done for my holiday and things like
just in time for a couple of times.
I think you should go and have a look at my friend's Instagram first, so you can actually see what happens, because that's important for people to know. I think people just need really good education, really need to do homework to wherever they choose to go.
And when you were doing your homework, where do you find like a reliable resource? Do you talk to people, or you look at the internet, or?
I knew someone that had gone somewhere, like quite a big group in Harley Street.
Okay.
And I did obviously look at that one. And I looked at several of them online. But again, I just did reviews of sort of like best places in London.
So you go
best doctors.
You do a little bit of background research on Google, and then
I did a lot of research really on Google. And then looked at went through a lot of reviews. I went through a lot of reviews for a lot of places, and even if they haven't got lots of them, the ones did sort of raise a lot of alarm bells. A lot of the if it's easy to look at it's easy to go through all the sort of positive ones, but the negative ones did have some really sort of scary, results of things that they've reacted to, things that have gone wrong, and they might not have the doctors to accommodate any of those problems, But it was all Google, and then just trading through a lot of reviews and just making a decision as best you can, really. Just going through, finding some
go and see for yourself.
Go and see for yourself, and just make a, if you think it's probably like too good to be true on paper, it probably is. And then when you go and visit someone, I think you can get a really good idea of what you're going to get from that when you actually see someone in person. And that's why I said, obviously, you can't do that if you're going to Turkey, for instance. You can't go and see the person. You can't go and see the clinic properly. So
I think you even when you get to there, and in some places, this is only from YouTube. In some places, you don't get to meet them until you.
That's what I mean. Until you're having it done.
Having it done.
That's the same with London ones as well. You know.
Oh, is it?
Well, yeah. So basically, your places that have the big companies here will have sort of hubs around the UK where you can go and have your consultation, and that will then speak to the doctor, and then that's it until the day.
No, the advisor speak to the doctor.
Yeah,
not you speak to
the advisor speaks to the doctor, gives you your transplant amount, plan and the price, and then that's it until, I assume, that's what I was told, until the day. So, you know, they've got a lot of doctors because they're big companies, and you don't know who you're going to get.
That's a lot of uncertainty on going into the transplant without knowing.
Yeah, and that's the other thing as well. So you'll have, obviously, where you had celebrity endorsements for these companies, you don't know who's done their transplant.
Yeah, because they've got so many doctors.
Because they've got so many doctors, so
many clinics, so many doctors.
So I think that's something that if you're expecting to see those results, first of all, you give it realistic ideas to us of what the hair's going to look like. But again, I think, you know, you might have like the top doctor doing one in their clinic on the celebrity, and you think you're going to get that look. But again, based on your hair quality, your hair, you know, whether it's fine or thick or anything like that, or the doctor doing it, you're not going to get that result. You might not get that result, you know. So it's really important to have your realistic expectations, which is what you do.
Cool.
But yeah, I think that's just like, that is the biggest part. I think it's really important to be able to know who you're doing it, be able to do your research on them. And see what they'll offer you.
Cool. Now that I see that you had the transplanted hairline there, sit here and look at it and intensely, and it's looking great. I mean, what your hairdresser recommends in terms of styling? Or have you tried different style?
This is the problem now, right? Because I've actually got some hair. No, so because I got hair now, right? So it's like starting from the beginning on trying to work out what I want.
Okay.
And what looks good and what I can experiment on. You know, it's like starting from fresh now.
That's a good thing, right?
Because, yeah, of course it is a problem in my head, because I want to try, you know, lots of different things now. And one person doing my haircut would do like lots of tapered fades and things, but I wanted it to look more natural, so I've had sort of like just a natural sort of scissor cut recently, and I just quite like the sort of just sweeping it back with like shorter back and sides, so it's just off my head, but I got a longer style.
Yeah, I like it. It's actually looking quite nice, and the length actually gives it a little bit more flowy sort of feeling.
Yeah, I think this style also works quite well for me in terms of, obviously we've had a talk about adding to the temple point, and obviously where the hair sort of flows over, you don't see that anyway. So I think that's partly why I'm doing it at the moment. I quite like the fact that it's not really as visible on that one. But I think the goal would be, I'd quite like to have sort of like a shorter, sort of quiffier style, like I think a lot of patients on your videos have got. But that would just be a little bit more of a lower hairline for me, just slightly lower with the sides. I think that would be where I'd like it to be, to have sort of more of a quiff style. But I do like the sort of relaxed, brushed back.
Oh yeah, I think it looks nice, and especially the weather when it's a bit warmer, you can just style it over.
Yeah, that's another thing. Obviously, I was fed up of having a haircut with a fringe. Because also when obviously it gets hotter, first of all, your head just feels really hot and it gets a bit sweaty, but also you start seeing the recession.
Yes, I remember when we first met, it was more forwardy sort of direction, right?
I think that's what a lot of people with receding hairlines probably go for, as a fringe that they can cover it with. So, and I just didn't want to be limited to that anymore. So, yeah, I think for as long as I can remember, I had a fringe that wouldn't show the sides of my hair. So, because that's the other thing, is a lot of people were surprised. If you have a look at some of the pictures of the before and after, it's very dramatic, I think. But because I always had my hair down, people didn't realise that my hair was like that. So they were quite surprised. Because when I said before, I want a hair transplant, told people I want a hair transplant, they would be like, well, you don't need one. Why do you want one? You don't need one, which is sort of infuriating as well. If you tell if you tell someone you want something and they're trying to be nice by saying you don't need it, but actually, you need it. That's in your head. You need it, So
it must be your style is so good that it gives the impression.
It was good. I was good at camouflaging it, covering it up. Yeah, I think that I just wanted to be able to do something different. But yeah, the friends and family were just like, yeah, that's cool. Just if you want one, do it. Just go and do it. If you want one, just do it. But again, like you said, you've got all these things in the back of your head, like, is my hair going to carry on? What will it look like? Am I going to find the right person? Because that was the biggest thing for me. I think the main thing was finding someone. I wanted to find, like, there's no website you can go to find like the best hair transplant person. Do you know what I mean? So it's really hard.
What is the best? Everyone is different in the best,
different techniques in different ways. Yeah, but there are like some website. I googled best hair transplant person in London on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
You came up on it. You came up at the top.
Really? No way.
You did, yeah. I've got a screenshot.
Let's have a look. That'll make my day.
You can carry on talking a minute, and I'll find it. Yeah.
We're liking ChatGPT then, because we're quite high out there.
There you go. So I think I wrote best hair transplant surgeon, and there you go. Like, you came up at the top.
Oh wow! Oh, thank you. What does it say? Oh, specialized in FUE hair transplant. Oh wow! Thank you.
Well,
wow.
I didn't.
We'll stick that up. Thank you. Official. Thank you to ChatGPT. We need to bring a sound effect. Oh, this sound effect is not working.
Disappear. There we go.
There we
go. ChatGPT.
Cool. Awesome. No, that's wow. That's kind of made my day. I mean, that's nice of ChatGPT to mention me. So yeah, but we do it. Just not. As you know, not just myself and my team. So they might not be here to join us in the podcast, my team, and as I'm always very grateful. Thanks, guys. and the team, is a teamwork, and it's not just one person. Yeah. Because it's just so labor intensive to do the actual process. Like you say, a good 12 hours of doing it. So me and my team take turn to. Of course, there are critical bits, parts that I do myself, but also the rest of the part is also very critical. Or every little steps also dictates the final result. So yeah.
But your name, I would assume, would come under the sort of like bracket of like under the umbrella of everyone. That your company. Yeah,
I mean, is ultimately responsible for the treatment, and is my. It's my work, and it's my work. So we take ourselves seriously, or maybe too seriously sometimes. But
I think that was again, that, like I said before, I keep saying that was the importance of why I chose you, is because it's your practice and not a chain. So,
I mean, in some way, that's a good thing.
For me, that was the good thing. Yeah,
because sometimes some patients when they search, they will search. Oh, it's a big clinic. It's got branches in London, in city, and it gives the impression that it's a huge backing.
I never see a big sort of company as a plus for me in terms because I always think that more goes into
the personal touch.
Yeah.
We feel that because sometimes if you stretch too much, and can I feel it might dilute the actual work itself. But I'm glad you appreciate.
But like I said, when you've got surgeons working for a big company, they're just one person
of the many
in the company. So I don't feel there's as much accountability. So that was like I said, the issue when I went with WhatsApp, and I was getting different people giving me different sort of opinions and prices and things. That's just a big red flag to start with, because it's just not. If you can't communicate properly at that level, then I don't want you doing my hair. So.
Cool. Well, thanks for telling us all the lowdown personal journey and experience on your personal hair transplant. For those who are watching and you want to know more about Rob's journey, Rob's kindly documented his journey fully in Follicle Chronicle.
The Follicle Chronicle, yeah, on Instagram.
On Instagram. And
the Follicle Chronicle.
Yay! And you can explore more about the before, the treatment, and also after the results as well, and also some of the journey from shedding to growth, and even when it starts to grow, how that evolves with time.
Yeah, I've said to you before as well, I'm happy for people to send me a message and ask me questions. It's 'cause I've done it before for them, and I think it really sort of calms them down and gives them sort of reassurance. So there's lots of things that I've talked about in the past that I probably can't remember when I'm talking to you now. That I've sent like massive messages to people and they've asked. So I've given them information as they've gone, anything they wanted to know really, because I think it's it's almost like I've forgotten I've had it done now, because I'm so used to what my hair looks like now. It was a shock when I saw it before. That's why it was really important for me to have the before and after, so I could see the difference, so you don't get complacent really about what you've got already. And it's almost like I've forgotten anything that would have been, if I was worried about anything, it's all sort of gone now because I've done it before. So if someone asks me a question, it sort of jolts my memory about that. But
cool.
Yeah.
Well, for me and my team, I'm very grateful, and thank you so much for doing the channel dedicating to your hair transplant experience. And also thank you for joining us here on our podcast, Beyond the Graphs. There is indeed a lot to consider beyond just the graph number, hence the title Beyond the Graphs. And I appreciate you coming up all the way to share your personal experience and with us. So thank you again, Rob. You're welcome. If any of you wants to drop us a comment on want to visit Rob's channel, you can visit Follicle Chronicle. So that's it for today. Thanks so much, Rob, for joining me.
Thank you.